r/am I the a-hole? OK Reality 3676 AITA for calling out my parents for having a golden child and being hypocrites. I, 18F, have two younger brothers, Blaze, 13M, and Newton, 11M. I am a college freshman, and one of my friends, 18M, I met in college, had his grandpa die in mid-November. A few weeks later, and a few weeks before break, my friend's parents invited us to his grandfather's house to see if there was anything we wanted. He had been in a nursing home during his last few months, and his family members had already taken anything they wanted from his house, with their grandfather's permission. His grandpa had a lot of clutter, not hoarding level, but it was a lot. And all the remaining items in the house were things no one had interest in. I went to his grandpa's old house, and one thing that caught my eye was a massive collection of baseball memorabilia, including a large collection from Japan, China, and Korea. My friend's grandpa was an Asian studies professor and loved baseball. My friend and his parents told me no one in his family liked sports. Blaze is a huge baseball fan and plays baseball, so I asked if I could take it, as well as the other baseball items, and they agreed. It was a significant amount of items. We took the van down several times for both me and other friends, and there was so much stuff I couldn't fit it all in my dorm room. We had to bring the van to my parents' house twice so they could hide the gifts in the garage before Christmas. I found a few items for Newton, but not many, so I asked my parents for money, and they gave me a few $100s for the thrift store. That way, Newton would have around an equal amount of items because I knew he would complain if Blaze got way more for Christmas, even if it was free. We are well off and always have been due to the fact that my parents both came from wealth. Our grandparents spoiled us, and my parents received very significant inheritances when they died. My dad is an environmental lawyer, and my mom is a biology professor. They both make good money, so we have the space to display all of the stuff. I went home over the weekend to celebrate Valentine's Day with my boyfriend. It's a 2.5-hour drive, so I don't see him often. I stayed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night and went back Tuesday morning. On Sunday night, Blaze came into my room and asked for advice. He said Newton had called him a derogatory term for doing skincare. He told me he didn't mind it that much, but Newton said he was going to tell Blaze's girlfriend that he should stop acting like a derogatory term for her. Blaze said that he does skincare and wears cologne to impress his girlfriend because she said she likes it. Blaze also told me that this isn't the first time Newton has been bigoted and that he's mocked the players on the baseball memorabilia from the Asian countries by making squinty eyes when pointing them out. I asked what our parents did, and he said nothing, which surprised me. I'll admit that back when I was in middle school, I was a total jerk because I knew colleges didn't look at grades and discipline from middle school. I would be rude and disrespectful to teachers, vape in the bathroom, and was a bit of a mean girl, etc. I'm not proud of it and look at that part of my life with deep shame. My parents would always ground me, though, and made sure I learned my lesson and helped me quit vaping. Blaze is easily the easiest child at that age of the three of us. He is a class clown, and his antics probably get him in detention once or twice a quarter. But his teachers say he's a nice kid and he's never had any serious discipline. Blaze has gotten grounded when he gets these detentions, even for minor infractions. Blaze was telling me how Newton got in trouble at school for some pretty serious things, including slur usage and disrespecting teachers for being women. He said Newton was never grounded, and his parents just had a talk with him. But the talks clearly were not working. Newton is the most like our parents. I mentioned our parents' careers, and we were all named after scientists. Newton after Isaac Newton, Blaze after Blaise Pascal, etc. Newton likes science, comics, and stuff like that. I've always been into typical girl things like dolls and fashion, and Blaze is the jock of the family. Our parents would always come to my events and Blaze's events, but it's always been obvious they like going to science fairs and comic conventions more than attending my art shows or Blaze's baseball games. I went to confront my parents about this. I know they taught us not to be bigoted. They post stuff during Pride Month in June, post about how they dislike Trump, etc. I agree with them, and so does Blaze. Newton is the only one who does not respect these progressive principles. My parents said punishing Newton would be ineffective and that you need to teach the hate out of him. They said they showed him videos on the Japanese internment camps and the Chinese Exclusion Act after he made a comment about Blaze's stuff a few weeks ago, but that it didn't work and they didn't want to push him too far. I told them that if Blaze or I did that, we would be punished more severely. They denied that, but then went on to say how it's hard being the youngest and least social of the kids, and how Blaze has better influenced friends than Newton, whose friends have also gotten in trouble for similar behavior. They said it's not Newton's fault his friends are like that, making excuse after excuse. I told them that Newton was obviously the golden child because his interests are most like theirs, and that they are being very hypocritical and should stop treating Newton less harshly. They said that I don't know what it's like to be a parent and should mind my own business before shaming them. AITA comments. Section user YoBaby123 says NTA. Your parents need to get their act together and your brother needs some serious tough love. User LuckyJellyfish5864 says NTA, but your brother Newton sure is. It sounds like he'd benefit from a firm talking to. User Screwy Year says NTA. Your parents are closing their eyes and ears to Newton's misogyny and racism. He's learned that behavior from others in his peer group or from podcasters like Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes. He may be 11, but he's not dumb. He's learned that there are no real repercussions to his behavior. User Pinebox Waiting says, this reeks of bait, but I'll wade in anyway. AITA. Your brother Newton acts like a cretin, and you think he should be more severely punished. That's your whole issue, right? You assume that your parents don't ground Newton because he's most like your parents. You call your parents on their unfair parenting, and they tell you that they discipline Newton differently than they disciplined you or Blaze. They talk to him more about his infractions and follow up with civics lessons. They do this because they believe this is a more effective approach for Newton. You recognize that you and Blaze aren't like Newton, and you really believe that your parents know that Newton isn't like you or Blaze. So why would your parents use the same parenting techniques on a kid who isn't like the others? It sounds very much like your parents have raised each of you with intentionality. It sounds like they have put thought and effort into raising you all. Why do you think that you know more about parenting Newton than they do? You have zero experience as a parent, but you think you know so much better than your parents that you can give them valuable tips and tricks? Lucky for you, raising Newton isn't your job, and your parents don't need your input. By your own admission, you were a brat who turned out just fine. Newton probably will too. User Obvious Block 6979 replies, I have to agree with you. My children had to be parented very differently. I literally had one child that only responded by taking her books. The other was influenced by friends and electronics. I think we also parent differently as we get older and have more experience. Sometimes we recognize our mistakes and change our techniques. Parents can grow and evolve. User YoBaby123 replies, you have a point, but at the same time, I do think Newton needs to write an essay or lines as well. User Obvious Block 6979 replies, I like that.